I'm in Sweden right now. Today it's actually quite sunny, so today it's beautiful. But you never know about tomorrow. Tomorrow it can be rain for the next 100 days. So.
På det tillbaks igen. Linus på baslinjen.
So what I want people to know that if you can create 8 teams like that in a fun draw sheet like that, then you can make $5,000 or 50,000 kronor for your club.
Yeah.
It is that simple. That was a 50,000. Are you recording?
No.
That Kristinehamn with a fun little draw sheet like that and a fun menu and 8 people, we will raise $5,000 or 50,000 crowns.
Yeah.
So I want anybody that sees this for podcast knows that yes, I can do this anywhere, China, Peru.
Eric can do it anywhere.
I can do it
Yeah.
anywhere. But
Anywhere,
anyway,
anytime.
You can find local sponsors from thousands of miles away locally.
I can find
Run local events.
I can find sponsors in the United States for Swedish events.
That is next level.
That's my new claim to fame, right?
There's
here.
people in Fort Walton that can't find sponsors for Fort Walton, and he found one in Fort Walton for Sweden.
That's right.
So is why are we sponsoring an event in Sweden? So as you can imagine, and Eric probably gets this as well, but when you're in a community, you get hit up every day for sponsorships. There's high school band and cheerleaders and band and football and soccer and tennis, and everybody's raising money, right?
Can I interrupt here a little bit? This is a huge cultural difference. So this is key. Why I want to do this in Sweden is because I see it day in and day out, and I want Sweden to adopt some of what he's talking about. So this is when people get involved. You can't do something if your kid does something, if your mom does something, you want to be part of it, whether it's a sporting event or a church or a band or music. This is very much I'm not saying America is the greatest country, but this is a very great thing about the United States. So I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine. And that's important because there are a lot of cultural difference, right? Because I'm involved in some other sports and things where we don't get any support on the national level, even for our top candidates that compete in the Olympics and things like that. We don't get so much government support for a lot of our Olympic style or more traditional sports, right? It's all private funding, which is a little different than a lot of European countries where they have strong Olympic teams and coaches, and the depth is probably more than 1 or 2 people per sport, right? Now, there's certain sports where we do really well, and there's a lot of money, but even then it's not so much government sponsored. It's corporate and private funding. So, and it trickles down all the way to middle school and high school and junior sports. There's no money just sitting around to develop young tennis players or young soccer players. You have to, mom and dad pay, kids pay, and businesses that get involved to help for certain periods of time, maybe why they resonate. So my point is we get calls all the time, and I'm not unique. Everybody in town does. So what we have to do is figure out which people we want to invest in, which person can we give money to that can do the most with it and make the biggest impact. And that doesn't necessarily impact our business, right? It's not always business driven. It's not like if I sponsor Eric, man, my business is going to take off.
Probably will.
I mean, we're hoping. And it goes the same thing. Like we work with some of the local bands and other, community events. And I, if people are like, oh, well, I'm going to put you on the shirt. I'm like, look, that's fine. But look, we're helping you because you need help. And we think it's important to have you, right? And so we're sponsoring this tournament with Eric because we're sponsoring Eric. And if Eric's like, hey, this is what I want to do, we have other people in the community too. We try to get behind people that we like and who have a history or who have a resume of doing things, right? And it's not like somebody who hasn't accomplished anything or doesn't make an impact, right? Years ago, Eric came to the TDC when we were doing the exchange program, I think, with Sweden.
Yeah.
And we were able to do some sponsorship through that as well. So he obviously has a history.
TDC is the Tourist Development Council, and they were one of my sponsors for $25,000 Women's Challenger.
Yeah,
Okay,
years ago,
okay.
probably 10 years ago.
More, yeah.
Yeah, maybe
over
even
10,
more.
More
Yeah.
than 10 years.
So, I mean, he has a history of doing things. So when he called me, and he's been a great customer as well. We've known him most of my life. He's been in the face of tennis in our area for over 3 decades, probably.
31 years.
Yeah. So, so if he calls and we have a conversation, I say, all right, yeah, let's try it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And so
But
here we are.
do you have any own background in sports or tennis, Bobby, or anything like that?
Yeah, I played in middle school.
Okay.
He was horrible.
Oh, it's all right. No, we had fun. Yeah, so we played, and I did the junior circuit for a little while. I mean, it was nothing special, just
Did you
a
have
young kid playing tennis.
Did you have a few lessons with me?
I think so.
I think he had a
We
few.
did.
We did.
We did. We had a few, and now my daughter is very excited about tennis. She's 8 years old, and so we try to foster that. And she lost her coach recently, and we got to get Eric on the team now. I'm waiting to bring in Eric till she could move around a little bit better. She's 8 years old, super tiny, fantastic kid, but we're still
Okay.
physically developing a little bit.
I see. Okay. But you have never been to Sweden, Bobby, or are you planning to come someday, or?
I think that would be fun. It would be
Yeah.
great. I've never been to Sweden. Personally, my businesses are more connected to water sports.
Mhm.
So we run a lot of, and especially through my partners in South Florida, we put on some windsurfing events, and we run a bunch of windsurfing programs around Florida.
Mhm.
And we have some kids competing at a really high level internationally now. So that's kind of where some of my professional focus is in terms of sport. But yeah, other than that, it's for fun.
What's windsurfing?
You don't know what windsurfing is?
Is that a real
Yeah.
sport?
Yeah, it's a real sport. Europeans love windsurfing.
Okay.
That's what he used to be, European.
Okay.
Before he came here and we made him a redneck.
Exactly. But Bobby, for the listeners, maybe can you tell us a little bit more about your business and your background? Like, who are you, for those who doesn't know?
Yeah. So I'm from Fort Walton. I grew up here, and of course during my time in college, I got to travel a little bit and went to school in Central Florida, and then also in South Carolina.
Mhm.
And I was always working in water sports, so I worked for some bigger windsurfing companies and got to travel a bit. The closest I ever got to Sweden was meeting a lot of beautiful Swedish women in the Dominican Republic, because I worked down there on the beach for a winter, and turns out there's a lot of Swedish women who come there for the winter.
Yeah.
And I knew at that point I should go there, but I never did, and that was probably better for me.
Yeah.
It's not
But-
too late.
Yeah, so that's my history in terms of Sweden.
Yeah.
And now, so as I came back, I opened a water sports company, and and that developed into the restaurant phase, and then pivot into some of the real estate as it related to that.
Mhm.
And it's been 20 years now, essentially, in as an adult. So
Yeah.
it's just constantly trying new things. It's not a simple thing, running your own businesses. So you're always looking for ideas to reinvent, because when I started in retail 20 years ago, people used to always come into the store and they would hang out, and we would do lessons, and we would take people on the water and do rentals and sell a lot of equipment. And then, now everything's mostly online. So it's a very different world, right? So constantly we're pivoting and evolving with the times.
I live on Okaloosa Island, and we have like 3 or 4 or 6 new buildings there. Big, nice, white hotels or condos.
They're houses, yeah, they're big houses.
And those
Yeah.
are beach weekend. He owns all of them, and
Yeah.
you rent them. huh?
Yeah, so they're all
For
rentals.
a weekend or something.
Yeah, so over time, we've circled back, and my brother and I, and even my brother and my dad, we've come together. We all do things different professionally, and then our paths recross, and we do things together sometimes, and it's fun to work with family, because we get to all work as partners. We didn't all stay in the family business or anything like that, so we all branched out, and then we come back together, and then we cross and come back, and it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so I'm going to take a picture of one of those white buildings, because that's where we expect you to stay when you get here in September.
As long
Yeah.
there's enough rooms to bring in a lot of great people from Sweden.
I love that. I love that. But Bobby, you explained before like why you are sponsoring an event in Sweden and that you wanted to help out Eric and so on. In general, is it important for entrepreneurs to be involved in sports and help out in general terms?
So in general terms, I think it's always important to stay connected within the community, you know, whatever that looks like. And different people at different levels financially can do different things. If it's helping physically at the tournament, if it's helping, you know, financially, if it's helping with promoting and finding sponsors, you know, I think communities are stronger when we all stay a little bit more connected, you know. I think it builds stronger relationships. I think it builds stronger communities. And I think it gives people something a little more exciting. I think, you know, when we all go to work every day, sometimes you're like, man, this is like, you know, I mean, Eric's been in the tennis business for 31 years, just in this area.
Right.
And it's like,
How the hell do you do it?
what, like tomorrow is the same as today is 20 years, you know, it's so to be able to work with different people sometimes on different events, even if it doesn't mean we're going to make a lot of money. Sometimes it's just inspiring and motivating, you know, it gives you some excitement in your day. I get bored.
I agree with everything he said. You know, you got to just go out with some fun people, have a bottle of beer, and see what the hell can we do different next year. I mean, even if 1 year was great, you want to do something new. You got to reinvent yourself, or you get stale and old. And I just happen to know that the greatest sporting events, the biggest moneymaker, annual moneymaker in sports is U.S. Open in tennis. It's a 16-day event up in New York, and I know
I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, they make a profit of 150 million every year. But what they do at the end of that tournament, they get together and say, "This was not a good year. What can we do? Change everything, change." And they have big brainstormings and they come up with bigger and new things. And when I learned that, I'm you know, that's how you look at a business. Even if you have a good year, if you do the same thing, it gets old and stale. So we're constantly trying to. That's why part of what is that a tennis pro shouldn't feel like it's just a tennis pro. You can do whatever you want with events and organizing it, and you get to hang out with fun people like Bobby. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's true. Yeah, I mean, you have to, because the world changes very quickly. You know, I think now it changes even faster than ever before. And you know, we put on a big beer festival, for example, every year, and this is the first year we didn't sell out in like 10 years. And I'll tell you why. We were lazy. You know, we didn't push it hard. We were just on cruise control. And I mean, it was still a great event, very successful. But we were like, you know, next year we're gonna have to
Step it up.
Yeah, we gotta put some effort into it, you know, and make it really fun for everybody and reinvent it. You know, people get bored, they want to do new things, but we can do a lot of the same things, but we can do it differently, right?
This is the American entrepreneurial spirit speaking right here, right now. Okay,
That's it.
this is key.
Full rock and roll.
Yes.
Yeah. You have told me so much, Eric, about the event organization and how we can improve that in Sweden. That it's we have a lot to learn there, definitely.
Yes.
Well, it's, you know, it's what's interesting to me and what I love, even and this is something I teach a lot of my managers. We look at all the reviews, right? For the restaurants, for the retail stores, for the vacation rentals. And even when we get a 5-star review, sometimes we're like, oh, that's cool. But you're always looking at it the same way you look at a 1-star review. Like, a lot of it's noise, right? Oh, the beautiful weather. Like, I don't have any control of that, right? But you look at it and you try to find what in there is helpful. Like, what did we do that we could do differently, even if it was a great review? Like, and we go, you know, that's something we have to work on. You know, that's something we have to work on. And that's how we try to approach. We need to approach everything, you know. And I think the way Sweden does things is phenomenal. There's a lot of things, you know, we can learn over here, and you know, Eric brings back ideas, and I think there's probably some things that you know, culturally, you know, you guys would say, hey, well, that's kind of interesting. Like, what we're talking about, how to fund these tournaments, right? So there's a lot of history on why, you know, Sweden is how it is and how we are, you know. It has nothing to do with me or you or Eric.
Right.
It's just how these things have grown. And so now we have the ability to get on a Zoom call and just talk about things,
Correct.
right?
It's
And
amazing.
pull ideas from each other,
Correct.
and we can all continue to evolve, you know?
Correct.
Yeah,
Right.
that's cool. That's cool. This event in Kristinehamn now, this is the first time we will try it in Sweden. And but do you, Bobby, see, if we look forward, do you see like Beach Weekend as a long-term partner for tennis, or how do you take it like year by year, or do you see it long-term, or
Yeah.
in what
So,
perspective?
I mean, who knows, right? Because year to year things change, but I think it can be a long-term partnership, right? And I think, you know, the first year is easy. Eric says, "Hey, I need this. Can you do that?" I go, "Yeah, let's do it." And then, you know,
Cash.
and then as we move forward, we figure out how to be more involved, right? Like
Right.
how, opposed to just being like, you know, people ask for checks all the time, but it's like, if we're going to be involved long-term or over a certain period of time, okay, let's figure this out. What does this really look like? Because one year is just one tournament. We're learning things, we're figuring things out, right? After that, it's like, well, what is our long-term goal? Like, why does Eric even care
Right.
if you do a tournament in Sweden, right?
Yeah,
Why do you
yeah.
care that Eric cares about a tournament in Sweden,
Yeah.
right? Because anyone, your next door neighbor, you could be like, "Hey, put on a tennis tournament." He'd go, "Okay, let's put on a tennis tournament." All right, cool.
I see.
But so we got to figure out after this time, all right, where do we go from here? Like,
Yeah.
why is this important?
Mm.
And what can it be for both sides, right?
Yeah, no, I totally
Or is
understand.
it just fun? Are we all that bored that we have to put on a tennis tournament 3,000 miles away? And sometimes that's okay, right? Like,
Right.
oh yeah, Eric's not busy. I see the court's full, 100 people playing every weekend. Yeah, he's not busy, right? He just needs to fly across the world and put on a tennis tournament, you know, in a different time zone.
Yeah,
No,
it's
I think I love the fact that we don't have the answer to this. You don't know, and you don't know, and I don't know. But I think there's a good synergy here. I think your podcast is growing, and of course, you're going to mention Northwest Florida, and you're going to mention you talked to Bob and Neighbor, and you know the connections could be tremendous.
Mm.
There's a town just across the water here, 30 minutes away, that in the 80s became a German community. It's called Blue Water Bay, and that was bought up. The whole place was developed by Germans, and they invested enormous amount of money and came here. I'm not saying we're going to get that, but we can get quite a bit of golfers.
He's not saying we're bringing Germans here again.
No.
We're good.
We're done with the Germans.
We're trying another country. New test.
So I think it's so much fun here, and I think it'd be a lot of fun for people. Of course, I had 50 people from my town has been here already since I got here from Kristinehamn. But of course, I love to see Americans in Kristinehamn, and I've had quite a few of those when I had the tennis, when we were doing the tennis tournament. Quite a few people from here went to Kristinehamn. So yeah, I think we can. I don't know. I don't have any answer to it, but I know I have the desire, and I know I have the time, and I'm going to have the effort, and I'm going to try to figure this out.
Yeah, I think there's a way to execute this tournament, get
Correct.
it off the ground,
Correct.
and then we all sit down again after the tournament and go,
Correct.
all right, what are we really trying to do? What is the goal here?
Right.
Like, this was fun. We did it. We got a cool poster. You know,
Yeah.
maybe we get a T-shirt, something, you know,
You may,
and we go, okay, cool. So how does this benefit tennis, or how does this benefit the area, or how does it
Right.
benefit tennis in Sweden or in the US, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think tennis probably has similar challenges around the world at different times. You know, all these sports, they go through ebbs and flows and good periods and more challenging periods. And those are the times where it's kind of fun because we get to experiment.
Maybe Eric, maybe you can explain even more why Koshi Kristinehamn, why you hope that will inspire more clubs in Sweden to do similar things.
I mean, because I grew up in Kristinehamn, and I know that the club has struggled. It was almost sold about 6 months ago, or they were about, and they only have 4 courts. I mean, they have 4 great courts, but the courts haven't always been in great shape. And we have 3 brand new floor on the indoor courts. And it's just, if it wasn't for those courts, if it wasn't for those 4 courts that were donated by an entrepreneur, a businessman in the 1970s, then I wouldn't be here. And I like being here. So for the rest of my life, there's a gratefulness toward these tennis courts that I cannot ignore. You know, after a while in America, when you hear people say you have to give back to the community if you have any kind of success, and that after a while, if I would not try to give back to the community, I wouldn't sleep well at night. You have to look yourself in the mirror and say, am I doing something good here with all the opportunities that tennis gave me? And I'd be darned if I can't try to help kids in Kristinehamn. You know, so my passion is unlimited. I mean, I do this. This is not work for me. This is not work. This is something I do because I have to and because I love to do it. Not one time have I felt like, Kristinehamn, oh, I have a job. No, it's not. It's much more. It's meaningful. It's important to me, and I wanted to succeed.
Lunas på baslinjen.